And fun fact, NieR or nier in French means to deny. Hi, and welcome back to Quest Markers. On this show, we talk about video games and the stories they tell with a big focus on narrative. My name is Marina, my pronouns are she, her, and today we are finally talking about NieR Automata, the game that I can't stop talking about and need to interject with in every single conversation. It's going to be a solo episode today because this game means so much to me, and I played it exactly 2 years ago, 2 Octobers ago, so I thought this would be the most appropriate time for this episode's release and selfishly an opportunity for me to gush about this game. I have some coffee, I have some water, I am ready. And as always, a spoiler warning, we will be going over the entirety of NieR Automata's story, but also major spoilers for NieR Replicant as well. And we've got a Quest Markers episode for Replicant that you can check out with Zach Parkerson. Another content warning for this episode, this game examines dark themes including sadness, dread, and existentialism, so please, if you're not in the right headspace to listen, feel free to come back or skip this one altogether. Please do what's best for you. I could talk about this game for hours, and I intend to in future episodes with guests, but for today, here's what we'll cover. We'll first go over the story in a fair bit of detail, and then we'll talk about how NieR Automata utilizes the video game medium to its full potential in its narrative design. We'll then talk about how the story surprises its players at every turn. We'll get into the major theme of existentialism, purpose, and free will, and we'll end with my favorite tidbit in the game. A lot of people have analyzed this game through the lens of philosophy, and the philosophical references stand out without being forced. What I love about NieR Automata is that it isn't concerned with the tired tale of whether machines will rise up and gain sentience and what kind of threat that poses. From the beginning, it says, yes, machines do have sentience, and then examines the character's struggle for meaning in a seemingly meaningless existence. This game is so brilliant because it tells a deeply human story through the lens of androids and machines, and with that shift, forces us to examine our own humanity at a bit of an intentional distance, discussing government, social struggles, philosophy, existentialism, and what it means to be human and alive. There is so much to talk about in this game, and there is no way I could go over everything or do it justice in one episode, which is why NieR Automata will be a series of episodes, and I'm really keen to have guests on to talk about this masterpiece with me. But for now, without further ado, thank you for being here, and let's get into it. When I first downloaded NieR Automata on my PlayStation, Copied City started playing on the PlayStation menu, which is still my absolute favorite song in this game, and it evoked an emotion that made me want to sink my teeth in immediately. So let's begin with a recap of the story. I'll go into a fair bit of detail here, but the episode is timestamped if you want to jump around. NieR Automata begins with one of my favorite quotes in any video game, and it's delivered so beautifully by Kira Buckland as 2B, and it goes, "Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse or some kind of punishment? I often think about the God who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle and wonder if we'll ever get the chance to kill him." Whew. What an intro. I'm getting goosebumps every time with that quote. The story goes that you are androids fighting for freedom on Earth. Years ago, aliens invaded Earth, forcing humans to retreat to the moon. The humans and aliens have since been in a war that's in deadlock, with the androids fighting on behalf of the humans and machines fighting on behalf of the aliens, with no end in sight. In Route A, you play as 2B, a battle android, fighting for YoRHa, an elite military force whose purpose is to combat the invading aliens and machine life forms. They fight to retake the Earth from the aliens and receive orders from the Council of Humanity on the moon. 2B's story takes her around the world with 9S, a scanner android, as they combat machines, but throughout the journey, they also see how these machines have started imitating human behavior. They see machines imitating companionship and caregiving in the desert, having fun at the amusement park, leading a kingdom in the forest, and you even meet a village of pacifist machines led by Pascal. In the desert, you eventually see a group of machines birth what appears to be an android, Adam, which opens up a lot of questions. And later on in the forest, you meet a deserter android named A2, and all she tells us is that YoRHa is lying to us. And at this point, pieces of the puzzle don't seem to really fit. Eventually, as the machines grow more and more aggressive through continued battles, you fight two massive Goliath-class machines. And as they explode, they leave behind a crater in the earth that you explore. And that's where you discover that the aliens are dead. You see them there. It's revealed that the machines killed their creators, their god, if you will, because they were weak and described as infantile by Adam. And the machines had no more need for them. And it's here that you fight Adam and his brother, Eve. And down the line, Adam kidnaps 9S and 2B goes to rescue him. And Adam, having become so fascinated with humans, now wants to experience a real death. So he disconnects himself from the machine network, which could otherwise revive him. And 2B ends him saving 9S. This sends his brother Eve into a rage, and he launches a major attack. We eventually defeat him, but 9S contracts a virus from hacking into Eve, which leads us to one of the most emotional parts of the game, where 2B is forced to kill 9S, saying, "Why does it always have to end this way?" However, 9S pulled a hacking maneuver where he uploaded his consciousness to nearby machines to save himself. And that's the end of Route A. In Route B, you play the same story events as Route A, but you play as 9S and get his perspective. And because he's a scanner model, it means his role is to learn as much as he possibly can about whatever assignment he's on. And what's unique about 9S's route is that you get insight into what other characters are thinking because of his unique hacking abilities. So you get this extra ability to be able to empathize with your enemy, which is ultimately a major theme that this game is asking you to partake in Route B. And a prime example that has always stood out to me is the Simone fight. As 2B, all you could see was that Simone was taking androids hostage in the amusement park. But as 9S, you get to see her inner thoughts, and she voices that she changed herself limb by limb to get the attention of another machine. And I'm grabbing some quotes here in a fragmented way, but she says, "Look at me, oh please look at me. I want your eyes to look upon me alone. Have I not become beautiful? I will become beautiful. I will do it for him. I even tried to learn what's called a song. Songs can make someone have feelings for you. That's what they say. So I practiced every day, but he still won't look my way. He 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 still won't look my way." That's when I realized he cares not for jewels or songs or beauty or appearance or anything else. I cannot win his love. Why have I done this to myself? Meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. I gaze into the mirror. In its reflection, I see only my own meaningless. And so I scream, "Someone, please look my way." End quote. And so you realize that eventually what she wanted was just to be seen. And she achieved that by kidnapping androids to be her audience because she learned how to sing. And you get to see this entirely different side of this boss that in Route A you had absolutely no context on. And I think that's the magic of Route B. And at the end of Route B, you learn that the humans are dead. The humans are extinct. And even saying that out loud has such a deeply emotional impact because it makes me think about climate change and how we are a lot of the time our own worst enemy as a species in many ways. We create conflict amongst ourselves and for ourselves. And I think that last note is important to take into consideration because in Route C, we learn that the androids were actually created by the machines, and they're essentially just fighting themselves in the name of evolutionary pressure. But we'll get into that later. So let's talk about Route C because it flips the game's own formula on its head. And you start it and you're like, wait, we still haven't finished this game? Because I was 20 hours in. I was having a great time thinking about what makes us human and where are the humans, and oh my goodness, the humans are extinct. And then Route C starts so drastically differently, completely subverting player expectations. It starts with the commander saying that Adam and Eve have been eliminated, and with the machine's chain of command broken, humanity is choosing the opportunity to seize Earth back by going to battle. And the commander says this incredible line. She says, quote, "Remember your pain, the pain of having your homeland stolen. We will take back the seas, the skies, the land. Here and now, we will put an end to this goddamn war. Glory to mankind," end quote. What well-written propaganda, as we later learn. And so you play as 2B and 9S again, eventually going into a battle against your fellow androids who have been infected with a machine virus, a virus that 2B eventually contracts. And in her dying moments, she uploads her memories into her sword and gives that sword to A2. But 9S sees this, and there's this really emotional scene where 2B finally and lovingly calls 9S Nines, which he's been asking her to do this entire time, as he entirely loses it while he watches the love of his life die. And then this massive tower comes up from underground, and A2 and 9S get separated in the aftermath. And we see a title card come up, and you're going, wait, is this the start of the game? And also, did they just kill a main character? And it's brilliant. And you play the rest of Route C as both of them, with A2 helping Pascal's village and 9S going to these big resource towers, the Meat Box, Soul Box, and God Box, which eventually leads him to open up the big tower that sprouted up. And I'm not going to go into the details too much here because I realize this summary is getting very long, but I wanted to touch on a key event that happens in one of these resource recovery units when you're 9S, which is that I remember picking up an item that told us that YoRHa black boxes are just repurposed machine cores. And it was one of those, oh, I need to put the controller down again moments. And this is a detour, but we're also told that the black boxes / machine cores are made of plant cells. And then when I played NieR Replicant and got to ending E, and I feel like that meme, by the way, of the dude pointing to the maps, but but when I got to ending E in Replicant, you go into the divine tree or memory tree, and this question comes up of, oh my God, is the tree the progenitor to the androids and machines? And I think those connections between the games are super interesting to look at, but I digress. This moment when 9S learns that he's essentially the same as a machine, that a part of him, his black box, is made from machine parts, escalated the downward spiral that he was already on after seeing 2B die. And eventually, when he climbs the central tower, or the ark that's meant to one day leave Earth, we learn that the true antagonists of the game are these red girls, also known as N2. And they were made with the goal of evolving machine kind to the next level of their evolution, which they believed could only be achieved through challenge and evolutionary pressure, or in this case, conflict and battle. But they also knew that with infinite power, if the machines destroyed all androids, the machines would lose their purpose. So both sides were stuck in a continuous conflict, going back to the very first quote that 2B says in the opening. And we eventually fight the Red Girls as A2, and now, knowing that the Red Girls are the masterminds behind everything, behind the machines, behind YoRHa, it recontextualizes the story entirely, especially knowing that A2 Squad were the first generation of YoRHa androids sent out as guinea pigs for the YoRHa program for testing. They were meant to fail. They were meant to die, but A2 survived. And this battle is so brilliant because the Red Girl's consciousness eventually starts fighting itself, and your pod tells you to stop fighting. By not attacking the enemy, A2 allows the Red Girls Network to grow more intelligent and more aware, eventually beginning to fight itself, because one side of the network insists on keeping the androids alive because fighting them provides them more opportunities to evolve through hardship and to have something, some purpose to fight for. And the other side of the network sees A2 as a threat that needs to be eliminated. And the two sides of the Red Girls begin to fight, with A2 saying the brilliant line, quote, "Ha, they're acting like humans," end quote. After you fight the Red Girls, you continue climbing the tower, switching seamlessly between A2 and 9S while you fight a boss, which was insanely cool and so well done. And eventually, the final battle is A2 and 9S facing each other, and the game asking you to choose between them. And again, another, oh my God, I need to put the controller down moment for me. A2, in this moment, tells 9S that the tower has a cannon that's pointed at the human data server on the moon, implying the Red Girl's intention to destroy it, and 9S says that he doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care if that gets destroyed. He says that YoRHa androids were designed to be killed as sacrificial lambs, and he's lost the woman he loves, and so he is so past the point of caring about anything at all. His entire life has been a lie, and he's lost the love of his life. And at this point, A2 tells 9S that 2B's designation is actually 2E, E standing for execution. Androids that were a special task force meant to execute YoRHa units if they learn the truth. And A2, being a keeper of 2B's memories, tells 9S how painful it was for 2B to have to keep killing 9S over the course of all of their work together, which they don't actually play in the game, but this unequivocally confirms that 2B loved 9S as well. So choosing A2 gets you to ending C, and there you hack 9S and repair his logic units by transferring the virus to yourself. And A2 destroys the Ark, saving the human data on the moon, but also it means that the remaining residents of Earth can no longer leave. And she says this beautiful line, and it goes, "I never quite realized how beautiful this world is," end quote. On the other hand, choosing 9S gets you to endings D and E, and here you get a peek into his memories. He knew all along that 2B was 2E. He felt her pain and that she had to kill him over and over again when he learned too much about YoRHa. He narrates and says that the Ark contains memories of the machine life forms and is meant to send those memories to a new world, a new planet. And he says he never had a reason to hate machines, and says, quote, "What have I been fighting for? Who have I been living for?" End quote. And you get a choice in this monologue to leave Earth, and that sees the Ark fire into the sky, into the future, into a new world, with everyone on Earth staying on Earth. And the true ending, ending E, starts during the credits of ending D, where the pods have a conversation and say, quote, "Report, all YoRHa unit black boxes now confirmed offline. Our mission to oversee the progress of Project YoRHa is complete. Proceeding to final stage of project, commencing deletion of all data," end quote. And you, as the player, pause the deletion because A2, 2B, and 9S's data seems to be leaking out. And Pod 153 wants to keep deleting the data, and Pod 042 denies the request, having gained consciousness and no longer wanting to delete the memories that this data holds. And the defense program starts attacking you, trying to continue the data deletion. And the only way that you, the player, can get past that is to work together with other players who gave up their save files to help you in this moment. And at the very end, you see the pods repairing A2, 2B, and 9S. We learn that the data salvage restored all of their past memories, and they talk about the possibility of a new future. And we go back to the very first quote that 2B says, except it's Pod 153 saying, quote, "Everything that lives is designed to end. They are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. However, life is all about the struggle within this cycle. That is what we believe," end quote. And Pod 042 says, Quote, "The possibility of a different future also exists. A future is not given to you. It is something you must take for yourself," end quote. And it's understood that 2B, 9S, and A2 have now broken away from the cycle they were in and that they get to choose how their future unfolds. And then you, as the player, can sacrifice your save file to help other people see ending E. And when you do, you see your data being deleted bit by bit, with the message being, what's the point of having all this stuff if you can't help others? And people call ending E for emotional damage. And people call this depression the game. And I have to say, I disagree with that, especially given how hopeful ending E is. I think it's a story about what it means to be human, and what it means to be aware of one's existence, and what it means to love and hope and create community and carve a future for oneself, and what it means to be alive. And I think it's worth mentioning that from a gameplay perspective, this game is just a massive homage to video games. It pays homage to Space Invaders and the starting sequence and the Soul series and you having to collect your chips when you die. The engine blade from Final Fantasy 15 is in it. It pays homage to 2D platformers and top-down games, even though it's mostly a 3D hack and slash. But NieR Automata knows exactly what it is, and I can't stop applauding Yoko Taro and the team for creating this masterpiece. And before we get into the themes, I just want to say again that I think the brilliance of this game is that it examines humanity through the lens of beings that aren't human, androids and machines, which forces the player to take a step back and chapter by chapter, ask ourselves questions about our own humanity. So again, before we get into talking about some of the narrative themes, I wanted to quickly go over just how beautifully everything comes together in this game. The surprises and plot twists, the environments, the lighting, the side quests are meaningful, the music, the acting. And I have to give a massive shout out to Kara Buckland, who voiced 2B, Kyle McCarley, who voiced 9S, and Jeremy Lee as A2. They bring the main cast to life so beautifully, and their performances, despite them playing androids, are so full of life and emotion. Kira's 2B is cold and purposeful and calculated and doubtful and stoic yet loving, and I absolutely love her take on 2B, especially when we get to see all the emotion flow out of her at the end of Route A. And it's this beautiful release of the things that she's been keeping bottled up inside her. And I had the incredible privilege of writing music for a game that Kira voiced a character in as well that came out this year, which was an incredible opportunity. Kyle McCarley brings so much sass and lightheartedness and then bitterness and anger and rage to 9S's performance. And Jeremy Lee brought strength and pain and sass and resolve to A2. And these are some of my favorite performances in gaming, and I'm amazed every time that I replay this game. And the music, oh my goodness, Keiichi Okabe just absolutely nailed it. NieR Automata soundtrack is revered in the industry, as it should be, and it somehow perfectly captures resolve and conflict and strength and sadness and the haunting feeling of existentialism and questioning one's purpose. And NieR Automata's use of narrative design principles to tell a story that could only be told in a game are brilliant. So let's dig a bit deeper into that. And there's a few examples I wanted to highlight here. Firstly, the saving system asks you to upload your playable character's consciousness to the YoRHa bunker so that you can load it up if you die. Brilliant. And if you do die in the game, when you load up again, you need to go grab your old body's chips, which are your power-ups. And it's such a brilliant use of narrative design and integrating game systems into the story because it supports the narrative directly. You are an android, and you do change bodies whenever you want. But I also love the section where 2B gets infected with the virus and your screen gets more and more broken as the virus permeates 2B's body. And it's really hard to play, and I think that's the point of it all. And again, it's just brilliant narrative design, and it uses a video game's medium to its full potential. But switching gears, I read somewhere that, I don't know how true this is, but that Yoko Taro doesn't want us to dissect the plot elements in this game, but rather to talk about how the game made us feel. So I'd love the opportunity to talk about NieR Automata's mastery in the element of surprise. I still get chills when I think about my first playthrough of NieR Automata, and the things that stood out to me the most are Route C altogether. The game works to set up this expectation that we'll play as separate characters when we get to Route B. And so I was expecting Route C to be the same timeline as A and B, but playing a different character, playing as A2, but it ended up being a sequel to them and a continuation of the timeline. Great surprise there. Also, learning that the humans on the moon actually aren't there and they've been extinct for ages was a big surprise as well. And I think that's because I played Automata before I played Replicant, and I stand by the fact that I think they should be played in that order and that you should replay Automata after playing Replicant. I think some people would disagree with me, but this keeps humanity's extinction a surprise. And in Replicant, and again, I think some people may disagree with me here as well, but it's implied, it's not explicit that NieR kills all of humanity. For all we know, a fair bit of fiction does the, haha, surprise, this actually isn't the case, rug pull on the audience. But NieR Automata explicitly says that the humans are gone. But regardless, this was a surprise for me, maybe not for other people, but I was truly holding on to hope that the humans actually were on the moon. To be dying was another big surprise for me. To kill a main character like that was incredibly shocking, but in hindsight, necessary to the plot. Another big surprise was 9S learning that the android cores were made of machines. Again, it was one of those put the controller down moments. And speaking of those, the fact that the ending boss battle is you as A2 fighting 9S or you as 9S fighting A2. What a unique way to end the game. And the surprise ending E, I loved it so much. And this entire game just pulled me in and it took advantage of my innate curiosity. And I think it has this ferocious desire to challenge and reset your expectations and keep you wondering and keep you in that state of curiosity. But moving forward, let's get into a big narrative theme in this game, which is existentialism. And I pulled the dictionary.com definition of the term because I think it encapsulates everything that NieR Automata explores in its themes. And it says, quote, a philosophical movement that stresses the individual's unique position as a self-determining agent responsible for making meaningful, authentic choices in a universe seen as purposeless or irrational. End quote. So it's about understanding our purpose, finding meaning in our lives in a world without purpose, knowing that we won't be here forever. And Meaning for the Machines was meant to be, according to the Red Girls, about growing stronger and learning. And it was about evolutionary pressure, and particularly with the focus being combat and being physically strong. But their programming contradicts itself, because if they were programmed to destroy their enemy and they're successful in doing that, there won't be an enemy to destroy and to challenge them. And this is the root of why the conflict between machines and androids has lasted so long. There's no enemy to fight. What becomes their purpose? And on the other hand, it seems as though the machines saw humans as gods as well, because humanity experienced more than just violence. So perhaps they thought that becoming more human and imitating humans' way of life was some key to finding their true purpose outside of the endless cycle of violence that they're in. And meaning for the androids came from serving a god that was dead, that god being humans. And that's encapsulated quite well in YoRHa's slogan, which is glory to mankind. And with the commander saying, quote, we need a god worth dying for, end quote, as if a higher being would be the answer to our purpose and existence. And with all the existentialist themes that Automata explores, I think one of the most important threads is that the search for meaning in a meaningless existence is a recipe for torment and despair. And we see this in the Wise Machine side quest in Route B, where we hack a machine and see its innermost thoughts, and there it is, pondering its existence. And in that side quest, 9S comments, after he hacks the machine one time, he says it's in pain because it can't find value in its own existence. It wants to know why it's here, why it exists, unquote. And the machine eventually says, quote, "We were created to fight, to eliminate all others and reside at the pinnacle of existence. Yet the battle rages eternal. Our cursed cycle of destruction and rebirth continues without end. None of us in the world are loved. This world has no need for us. There is only one solution," end quote, before jumping off to its end. And I think that idea of the game exploring whether existence is or isn't meaningless is probably why a lot of people think it's sad. And it is. There are many, many sad, heart-wrenching moments, but I do think the overarching message of ending E is that once we're free of the expectations of others, whether it's the androids being free of YoRHa and a dead god, and the machines being free of the red girl cycle of endless battle, that we can find our own meaning, carve our own path, and choose our own struggles. And it goes without saying that you have to be in a privileged position to be able to lead a life where you can have that agency and carve your own meaning. But pulling back, it feels like the game's commentary, or maybe I'm stretching here and creating my own meaning, is that meaning isn't found in anything except ourselves and the meaning that we create for ourselves. And we see meaning in the form of community in the game. In Pascal's village, for example, we see machines finding joy outside of the endless cycle just by being. And we see the Forest Kingdom finding meaning in protecting their king. And we see the machines in the amusement park finding meaning in play. And we see the theme of finding meaning in love being explored between 2B and 9S, and love giving 9S his own meaning that he carved for himself. And we see A2 saving humanity's data give her meaning. And the overarching theme of joy, I think, is best exhibited through A2 saying in ending C, quote, "I never quite realized just how beautiful this world is," end quote. And when 2B, 9S, and A2 are reconstructed at the end of the game, it's implied that because they're free of YoRHa and the endless cycle, that they'll have the chance to live how they want, executing their life with their own free will and finding their own meaning, with the caveat that they may fall back into similar patterns that they used to be in, but that they now have the chance to live differently, and that chance is what matters. So I think with the amount of death and defiance that we see in this game, and fun fact, NieR, or nier in French, means to deny, it reminds us of what it means to be alive, that we are here for a finite amount of time, and we're alive with the people who are here during this time, who are alive at the same time as us, and what a privilege it is to be alive with everyone who is alive today. And in seeing the androids deny their predetermined fate, it reminds us that we can overcome hardship together. And this is perfectly shown in ending E, where the pods deny their programming as well. They were the overseers of Project YoRHa, and they were meant to delete all of its data, presumably to restart the cycle at a future date, and they denied that fate. And side note, I love the irony of androids holding so much anger and disdain towards machines, and yet their pods look like machines, and they accept their help. But I digress. When the pods resolve to save 2B, 9S, and A2, you have to work with other players to take down the gods of this game, who are none other than the game dev names in the credits. And I think that that is done so brilliantly and is very symbolic, and it becomes near impossible to do alone, given how many names you're facing. And eventually, the game asks you whether you want to give up. And eventually, the ships of other players come to your aid in solidarity. And then you can choose to transform your own struggle into kindness and connection if you choose to delete your game's save data. You erase your progress. You don't know who you're going to help experience ending E. But what's the point of living and having all this stuff if you can't help other people? Because the joy of living is found in community and helping others and sticking together. And it's just so good. So I wanted to end with my favorite tidbit in the game, and that's that field androids wear blindfolds, and operators at the YoRHa base wear mouth covers. And while the blindfolds are meant to be visors with HUDs, they actually represent how field androids are blind to what YoRHa actually is, and that operators can't talk about what YoRHa actually is. And I think that's such an obvious yet subtle element that's often misinterpreted as just cool fashion when it might be so much more. This is a theory that I read online, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But field androids can't see the truth, and operators can't speak it. And then A2, her face is bare because she knows the truth and speaks the truth about YoRHa. And I think it's a brilliant detail, and that this game is just brilliant all around, which brings us to the end of today's episode. To wrap us up, NieR Automata is a rare game. It strives and achieves excellence in its narrative design, performances, environments, fashion, battle system, upgrade system, saving system, the music, and so much more. And if you loved it as much as I did, I would love to hear your thoughts, because there's so much NieR lore that I still read and I learn something new from. And I'd sincerely love to hear about how this game made you feel and what we should cover in future episodes. And if you know me personally, you know that I can't stop talking about this game. So thank you, as always, for being here. If you want to follow us on socials, links will be in the description. Do something nice for yourself today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.